President Donald Trump's budget was once again taking aim at public broadcasting and library funding. The latest proposed federal budget from the White House would defund the National Endowment for the Arts, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and the Institute for Library Services, amongst others. Now, the cuts come to nearly $900 million from the $4.7 trillion 2020 spending plan. So if the budget, and that's a big if, were to come to pass, it could possibly shutter outlets like PBS and NPR. What are we going to do without Big Bird? Speaking of Big Bird, I have to bring in my 360 View panel and discuss within this very important subject. We bring in former Florida Democratic Party Chair Mitch Ceasar and conservative commentator Steve Malzberg. Thank you for joining me on this very important subject. Now, once again, let's premise if. I think that's something we can start off the three of us agreeing with, that there's probably a good chance that Trump's 2020 budget is not going to pass as it stands. But, Steve, why has President Trump suggested cutting funding for public broadcasting for the last 3 years?
Well, because this is what his base wants. I mean, there's absolutely no need to fund, for me to pay for PBS and NPR when they fundraise on their own, when they get corporate sponsorships, when they have memberships that pay, members that pay for memberships. And we have 1 million, this started, Corporation for Public Broadcasting started in 1967. There were like 3 channels. We have a zillion channels now with a zillion places for kids and anybody else to watch. We don't need to pay for PBS and NPR any longer. Well,
that's the thing, Mitch. President Trump has been accused for everything else he does, so why not make this political? Is this just an attempt to defund the networks that have been seen as hostile towards his administration? Because he can't take out those that are on cable, so he's going to go after the ones that he can.
You know, I agree with Steve, it's about the base, but that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. You know, it provides a lot of services. When you talk about those 3 different agencies, they've given out 65,000 grants to National Endowment of the Arts and Humanities. PBS is known, as you said, for Big Bird and Sesame Street, with preschool kids and long-distance learning, help for teachers. And it's interesting because, as you said, this is the 3rd time he's proposed, the 3rd time it got funded anyway. Even when Republicans controlled both ends of the House, it got approved. Now, of course, Democrats control the House, so it certainly won't be approved. This is just a bone to the base. It's unfortunate. I don't know if he has a personal vendetta against Big Bird. Maybe Big Bird said something about, Mexico was going to pay for the wall and found out they weren't going to do it. Who knows? It's all show business.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think either Republicans or Democrats want to be seen as Oscar the Grouch. But, Mitch, you have to admit that a lot of things, the reason why this is because do you think there is bias, especially on something like NPR, maybe not even PBS, but PBS has been known to put a liberal agenda in a lot of their programming at kids' ages. So do you think possibly, can you agree that there is at least bias in some of these networks?
I really don't. I mean, he's screaming fake news all the time. It happens over and over again. This is one of the last institutions, and I use that word specifically, is used by the president of that agency in a press release today, saying this is one of the last guardrails that's up. It's just not fake news. I think it's more or less down the middle, but it's all in the eye of the beholder, obviously. But the problem is that we just keep going along where facts are a rare commodity.
It's interesting that you would say facts, because NPR and facts and I have a great history with each other. That's why I'm going to look at you, Steve, and go, do you agree that it's down the middle? As from a Republican standpoint, do you look at NPR and say that it's a unbiased radio network?
Oh, my God, absolutely not. I defy Mitch to name the conservatives and the Republicans who are on NPR or PBS, for that matter. Look, these places can still exist. They get corporate sponsorships. They have private money donations and everything else. This is outdated. It's time to go. And so is Planned Parenthood, by the way. So I hope the president would stick to his guns on outlawing all of those, defunding all of those.
Well, unfortunately, we cannot go in another 10 minutes, which that segment, which Steve just teased us, which we could do. I'm going to have to say goodbye to both of you, Steve and Mitch, but I wish you guys, thank you, the best. And you know what? I mean, once again, I don't think either one of you would ever vote against Elmo. I don't think either of your families would like that.
It's not goodbye from Sesame Street.
It's not about Sesame Street? Yeah, that would not be good either. Thank you guys for joining us.
Hey YouTube, thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this last video. We have a ton more great content just like this for you. So if you want more, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. And remember, never stop questioning more.